He caught the unmistakable tone of laughter just beyond the open window, the sound of my best friend snickering cruelly, slicing through the tranquility of the fading day. The words tumbled out, though they seemed coated in malice. That kid isn't even his. Days later, David decided to serve justice, unwinding the threads of our fragile lives in a tapestry of revenge. I'm Claire, a woman of 30 with a heart once brimming with vitality, now shadowed by the weight of choices I never thought I'd make. David, my husband, stands at 41, a man of unwavering dedication who had always adored me and our daughter, Lily. She's just 7, a spark of innocence wandering through the chaos I've sown, blissfully unaware of the ugly truth lurking beneath our roof. On my 30th birthday, my delicate world began to shatter, plunging me into an unexpected and harrowing saga. My betrayal, hidden and festering, collided headfirst with the reality of our lives. To simplify this bizarre narrative, let's stop pretending. Calling my lover and my husband by cute names is a distraction I can't afford. This isn't a whimsical fairy tale, it's a weighty saga of secrets and deceit. Nicole, my best friend since high school, shared countless adventures and skipped stones across the surface of our youthful mistakes. I had beckoned her over. David was away for the weekend, and Lily was off at her grandparents', a perfect opportunity for a heart-to-heart. We sank into the cozy embrace of my living room, cushy blankets draped over us, a glass of wine in hand as the light from the nearby fireplace flickered softly against the walls. As the spirits began to flow freely, our laughter echoed like a symphony of past joys, coaxing memories from their corners. We shared tales from our reckless teenage years, triggering fits of laughter that brought tears to our eyes. Each giggle draped a comforting veil over the tension that simmered just below the surface. Alcohol had an uncanny ability to transport us back to simpler times, lifting the burdens of adulthood momentarily. But then Nicole reminded me of an anxious call I made when the shadow of my pregnancy loomed. The irony of it stung. I had frantically confessed my fears to her, wondering if the child I carried was truly David's. As reality dawned, my heart sank. All the lies I'd spun and the trust I'd shattered sat heavily between us. Nicole, loyal as ever, had been the guardian of my secrets, stoic amidst the tempest I had unleashed upon our lives. She had supported me through the maze of my choices, always there to catch me when I faltered, reassuring me with her steady presence. David planned a lavish celebration, a surprise that sparkled with ambition and promise. I yearned for the moment when he would unveil his surprise, eager for it to be a day of joy, unmarred by guilt. The week leading up was laced with my deceit as I feigned excitement for what was meant to be the pinnacle of our years together. On that fateful morning, I awoke to the invigorating aroma of coffee wafting through the air, a gift David had meticulously prepared. He presented it with a flourish, his warm smile lighting up the room. A soft pink card sat next to my cup, layered with sweet words that made my heart swell. It was a clear testament to the thought and effort he had dedicated to making this day memorable. I could feel the warmth radiating from him, enveloping me in a cocoon of love that felt impossibly safe. But guilt twisted within me like a coiling serpent, reminding me that my happiness was built on another's sorrow. As I breathed in the rich aroma of my coffee, I dreamed about my lover planning his own way to celebrate my special day, already anticipating the thrill of playing 2 roles in a single celebration. The emotional storm brewing within me intensified as each moment slipped away, and the inescapable dread loomed closer, waiting for the right moment to strike. As I made my way to the table, I thought about the future, my dreams delicately balanced between the desires for love and the reality of the pain I had caused. As I poured another cup of coffee, I couldn't shake the image of David, trust and betrayal swirling in his eyes, ready to unveil the truth, poised for destruction. The sun began to set behind the tranquil waters of the lake, casting a warm, golden hue over the rustic lakeside cabin where the celebration was set to take place. I received a delicate note, elegantly scripted, instructing me to visit a nearby designer to prepare for the evening's festivities. The request caught me off guard, my heart racing at the unexpected surprise. I arrived at the atelier, where an ambiance of tranquility and luxury enveloped me. The designer treated me like royalty, draping me in an exquisite gown that clung perfectly to my figure. The intricate beadings sparkled under soft lights, making me feel as if I had stepped into a fairy tale. As the stylist fussed over final touches, adjusting a stray strand of my long, wavy brown hair and offering little suggestions on my makeup, I couldn't help but marvel at the meticulous care they put into crafting my look for tonight. I was overwhelmed with gratitude, a fleeting sense of joy washing over me amidst the undercurrents of anxiety. Once dressed, I was instructed to wait for further notes with revelatory details that would lead me through this enchanted evening. I sat in a corner, my mind racing, pondering what could possibly exceed the sheer opulence of my attire and the attention bestowed upon me. Just then, another note fluttered to me, announcing that a limo was ready to whisk me away. A thrill bubbled within me as I approached the sleek vehicle, opulence personified with its shimmering surface and plush interior stocked with champagne and gourmet snacks. My heart swelled with appreciation for David, who had orchestrated such a grand gesture to celebrate my birthday. As I stepped into the cabin, the decor stunned me. The atmosphere was reminiscent of a lavish wedding rather than a mere birthday. Familiar faces filled the space, cherished friends, dear family members, and a few colleagues, all radiating smiles and warmth. I could make out my husband, David, standing on a makeshift stage, his tall frame exuding comfort as he announced my entrance with palpable excitement. With every pair of eyes fixated on me, an electric anticipation tingled in the room. Among the glowing faces, I spotted Chloe in the front row, her edgy pixie cut glowing under the soft light, offering me an encouraging nod that made me feel beautiful and confident. I walked onto the platform, as instructed, taking my place in the center, surrounded by flickering candles that cast dancing shadows. An audio-visual presentation began, creating a nostalgic montage of our lives, how David and I met, our blossoming romance, the laughter we shared in our marriage, and the memories of Lily's birth. As images flashed before me, my heart swelled with pride, tears pricking at my eyes from the sheer thoughtfulness David had infused into this event. Unable to contain my emotions, I leaped down and enveloped him in a tight embrace. "This is incredible," I whispered, my voice laden with raw love and appreciation. David smiled, but a hint of mischief danced in his eyes. "Save those tears. There's much more yet to unveil," he teased, and I felt a surge of curiosity mixed with anxious dread. I leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss on Lily's forehead as she beamed at me, a little partner in this elaborate plan alongside her father. I resumed my seat, expectant and nervous, feeling the tantalizing thrill of the unknown lingering in the air. The lights dimmed, and I was blindfolded, instructed to stay put on the stage. I perceived the murmur of the crowd, and anticipation buzzed around me like electricity. Suddenly, I felt soft warmth brush against my lips. My heart raced. Instinctively, I responded, expecting David to be the one kissing me. But when the blindfold was swiftly removed, reality shattered into a million pieces. Standing before me was a striking figure with familiar dark eyes, my lover, the hidden father of Lily, indulging in a passionate kiss. The earth seemed to tilt beneath me as I caught sight of David standing across the room, his expression placid, but eyes burning with a quiet storm, quietly taking in the spectacle as if he'd orchestrated every moment. David took a deep breath, raising his voice. "Let me introduce the man who has been kissing my wife, the one who helped her welcome the joy of motherhood." Confusion rippled through the room, gasps escaping lips as David revealed me in the most excruciating manner possible. My heart plummeted as I recognized the fatal blow my affair had delivered, not only to my marriage, but to my entire existence. The laughter that had filled the air turned to stunned silence, the weight of betrayal palpable. The eyes of my friends, family, and colleagues pierced through me, their expressions morphing into a reflection of the shame that enveloped my soul. Time stood still as I struggled to comprehend the devastation unveiled before our loved ones. My voice caught in my throat, the reality of my actions crashing over me like an unforgiving wave. The laughter, the love, and the warmth of the gathering were shattered like fragile glass, leaving only echoes of betrayal and a hollow heart that knew it would never beat the same way again. My heart raced like a wild drum in my chest, each beat echoing the weight of the turmoil enveloping me. I struggled to gather my thoughts, navigating through a fog of panic that clouded my mind. The air felt thick and oppressive, suffocating me as the heat of shame flushed my cheeks. David stood before me, his expression a mixture of disbelief and heartbreak, his voice heavy with sorrow as he lamented how naïve he had been, how his unwavering trust had turned into a cruel betrayal. He described the moment he came home early, intending to surprise me, only to find me deep in conversation with Chloe, utterly unaware of his silent presence. David had stealthily entered the cabin, a stranger viewing a scene of domestic chaos, overhearing every whispered word, every secret shared. The realization crashed into me like a torrential wave. He had known all along, and now the truth bore down on me like an anvil, weighing down every chance of redemption I thought I held. I scanned the dimly lit space of the rustic lakeside cabin, my vision blurred by tears that spilled over, each drop a reminder of my crumbling world. Through the throng of guests, I searched for Chloe, desperate for a familiar face amidst the chaos. Instead, my eyes landed on Lily, my sweet girl, clutching David tightly, her small body quaking as she sobbed. It felt as if a knife twisted within me. The realization of my actions, inflicting pain on the innocent, pierced my heart with an unbearable weight. I was drowning in a sea of self-loathing. I had betrayed the two people I cherished most. Claire, David's voice sliced through the air, filled with an anger I never imagined he could wield. You're nothing but a shameless mother. You had the audacity to make a pact with your lover that he could continue this farce as long as our daughter remained out of it. You would rather sacrifice her than face the consequences of your choices. The wounds in his voice represented the scars I had inflicted. I flinched at the truth behind his words, each accusation more painful than the last. Please, David, I began, but he cut me off, the pain in his eyes turning into a flicker of disgust. My mind raced as I recalled the depths I had sunk to just to maintain my facade, my lies spiraling out of control. The shame of my actions felt like a heavy cloak draped over my shoulders, suffocating me under its weight. I could sense the judgment of the guests surrounding us, their expressions mirroring David's as they bore witness to a family shattering before them. Regret coursed through my veins as I confronted the heartbreaking truth. I had played with their lives and hearts. I had placed my desires above their needs. I was ashamed, yet I craved a connection with my husband and daughter, hoping they could understand my turmoil, even if it meant admitting my dark cravings to maintain an affair. As the guests began to filter out, their whispers trailing behind them like shadows, I sank into a chair, dizzy with the chaos of the evening. The party, once a celebration, had transformed into a battlefield of betrayal and shattered dreams. David turned from me, his back tense with unresolved anger, sharing his intent with a chilling calmness. You can leave with him, if that's what you want, Claire. Here, there's no place for a selfish mother. I won't let you take advantage of Lily's innocence anymore. The space around me felt hollow and echoing, every heartbeat amplifying the regret. How could a simple birthday party spiral into such a devastating revelation? Time passed in an agonizing blur. The cabin grew quiet, and I was left alone with my thoughts. Desperate, I fumbled with my phone, attempting to reach Chloe and my lover, but to no avail. With a heavy heart, I wandered to nearby quaint bed and breakfast, its cozy facade a poor comfort for my shattered spirit. Morning dawned, and the sun cast soft glow across the horizon, but the light felt cold on my skin. After countless attempts, my lover finally answered after 2 agonizing hours of silence, each ring driving a nail deeper into my heart. "You've made a mess of things, Claire," he criticized, his tone laced with frustration. "I stayed in this because I thought your daughter would stay in the dark. Now that the truth is out, there's nothing more to tie us together. I want nothing to do with you anymore." The harsh finality of his words was a crushing blow. I felt lost, suspended in a world of my own making, with no direction to turn. The reality of my choices consumed me, magnifying the silence in my life, and in that moment, I knew I was alone. I attempted to reach out to Nicole, convinced that she would be the sole person who could grasp the enormity of my situation. However, to my dismay, she repeatedly declined my calls, stirring doubts within me about the strength of our friendship. She was the one who knew the secret that weighed heavily on my heart, the truth about my pregnancy and the identity of my child's father. Eventually, I received a text from her, expressing that she was in no position to assist me. Her husband's growing mistrust had created complications, and until circumstances improved, she wouldn't be able to communicate meaningfully. In that moment, the gravity of my solitude settled upon me, making it clear that I was utterly alone in untangling the chaos I had woven into my life. It was painfully clear that I couldn't rely on anyone else to mend the broken pieces, and I had to summon the courage to take responsibility for the consequences of my choices. This realization struck me like a cold wave, but also marked a vital turning point for personal growth. Now, here I am, pouring my thoughts into this post in hopes of finding a bit of solace and clarity amid the turmoil. Perhaps articulating my thoughts will help me untangle the knots of regret and make wiser choices in the future. I ask those who come across my words not to cast judgment, but to offer any constructive advice on navigating this labyrinth I've created. Update. Swat. Many have expressed interest in how things transpired, so here's a glimpse into the events that followed. The nights were long and fraught with anguish. I became a restless spirit, haunted by the vision of my daughter's hurtful gaze aimed at me. I found myself waiting near her school every day, desperate for a fleeting encounter, yearning for just a glimpse of her. Yet she would always sidestep me, her demeanor suggesting I was nothing more than a stranger wandering through her life. The weight of being a failed parent pressed heavily on my heart, each day intensifying my resolve to bridge the widening gap between us. The agony of her rejection cut deep, but I knew I couldn't afford to give in to despair. I pondered that perhaps mending fences with David could be the key to reestablishing my bond with Lily. Although I had stumbled as a wife, my love for my daughter remained unwavering, and the thought of her turning away from me was unbearable. With every passing moment, I feared the chasm of indifference between us would deepen, making it even harder to rekindle our connection. Determined to initiate the healing process, I resolved to reach out to David, hopeful that rekindling our relationship would ripple positively into my relationship with Lily. As I approached the apartment, where he was now staying with our daughter, I noticed the familiar house, its once warm colors now seeming stark under the weight of our unraveling family. David's mother often watched over Lily, casting her shadow in our lives, and I cringed at the thought of facing her, knowing her disdain for me had only grown. I texted David, requesting a talk regarding our daughter, and suggested he meet me at a quaint cafe nearby. This felt like my best shot to persuade him to sit down with me. After what felt like an eternity, he arrived. I ordered his usual black coffee, no sugar, and gestured for him to take a seat. He plopped down, his expression flat and detached, urging me to cut to the chase. "How's Lily been? Is she doing all right in school?" I started, trying to break the ice. She's fine. I'm handling it. Just tell me why you're here, he replied curtly, his tone slicing through the air like a knife. With a shaky breath, I prepared to lay it all out. I know Lily's facing a lot of stress because of everything that has happened. Perhaps we can work together for her sake. I believe a fresh start could do wonders for all of us. We need to set aside our differences for her benefit. As I spoke, I realized I was stumbling over my words, trying to sound convincing, even as my heart raced with fear and anticipation. I think seeking counseling could help us come to a resolution that honors Lily's well-being. Let's explore ways to repair this family, I urged, all the while hoping that he could see the sincerity in my eyes and the longing for reconciliation that filled my heart. As the conversation deepened, an unexpected hush fell over Use, hinting at the fragile bridge we might build together for the sake of our daughter. Outside, the sky began to darken, mirroring the tumult I felt inside, the hope that flicked like a candle flame amidst the storms of doubt gathering in the distance. His laughter echoed in the cozy bedroom of the lakeside cabin, filling the air with an unsettling mix of betrayal and disbelief. After my lengthy soliloquy, spilling my heart as if it could somehow repair the shattered remnants of our marriage, David shook his head. "Do you really think I could be fooled anymore?" he asked, his voice low and filled with a bitterness that bit deeper than he intended. "You've made it clear that this marriage was never a priority for you. It's time to stop pretending you're still a wife or a mother and just face the truth." The mention of our daughter, Lily, snagged in his words like a thorn, making my heart wrench painfully. "You're only upset because she's distancing herself from you," he continued, his eyes glazing over with unspent passion. "You should really seek help to confront whatever demons you've conjured." His words were arrows aimed straight at the core of my anguish, stripping away my defenses until all that remained was raw vulnerability. I felt the sting of his accusations, and as he expressed his unwavering mistrust, I realized the far-reaching consequences of my choices. "You know me thoroughly, huh?" I shot back, my voice trembling with defiance. "You think you can just strip away my right as her mother because I've stumbled?" The air thickened between us, tension winding like a coiled spring. "She is mine, biologically and emotionally, and you can't keep me from her." "You're wrong," he replied, a mixture of sadness and resolve sharpening his gaze. "I'm going to fight for her, Claire, and I won't lose." The words struck hard as he stormed out, shaking the very foundations of our crumbling relationship. Anger surged within me, spilling into the air, igniting a battle I never wanted to wage. How did an effort for reconciliation morph into this fierce contest of wills over our daughter? It was a heartbreaking quagmire with emotions spiraling and misunderstandings proliferating. Yet beneath my simmering resentment, a flicker of hope remained. If only we could prioritize Lily above our bitterness. A sharp knock on the door, days later, shattered my introspection, revealing a legal envelope. The notice of my impending divorce had arrived, accompanied by the custody papers for Lily. Deep down, I had anticipated this moment, knowing the stakes were high, while clinging desperately to the hope that my bond with my daughter might save me in court. The divorce trial unfolded agonizingly, a series of searing revelations cutting into my heart. When the verdict of 0 alimony was delivered due to my infidelity, it felt like a gust of wind had knocked the breath from my lungs. I steeled myself as the custody trial began, gripping my chair as if it were my last refuge. The courtroom was heavy with an air of gravity, each word exchanged feeling like a dagger to my soul. The accusations flew as David revealed secret after secret, claims that I had known from the very beginning that Lily was not his biological child. The truth slithered out with all its sting. I had lied and betrayed not only my husband, but jeopardized my daughter's stability. With every piece of evidence he brought forward, my heart sank further into despair. "She was never my child," he asserted, contradicting my every defense. "And yet I have provided for her. I have given her security, even without the bond of blood. I sat frozen, echoing my mind's chaotic thoughts. My lack of a steady job, coupled with the fear that I might abandon Lily if I were overwhelmed, weighed against my desperate but unconvincing assurances of love. These sentiments didn't uphold a mother's worth. The courtroom held no sympathy as the judge deliberated over the evidence with somber gravitas. Love is not enough when it comes to a child's well-being, the judge pronounced eventually, sealing my fate. In the aftermath of this ruling, all that was left crumbled, and the reality of my naivete descended like a dark cloud in my mind. I was left grappling with the remnants of a shattered life, where all my well-intentioned hopes seemed bitterly misplaced. Seeking advice on the custody arrangements, I wished my lover, the biological father, would step in to mend the void I'd created. However, he stood back, unwilling to serve as the father I had coerced him into becoming. A chilling recording he possessed, where I recounted my deception with nonchalance, was the final nail in my coffin. In a matter of days, I was isolated, confronted with the realization that I had played the architect of my own downfall, leaving me to confront the very demons that David urged me to confront long before. That was the sole reason he had chosen to keep his affair with me. He never had any desire to embrace fatherhood. I could clearly see how this would cast me in a dreadful light, painting me as someone who failed to prioritize my daughter's welfare, even from before her existence. Everything unfolded in precisely the opposite manner of how I had hoped. The aftermath of the trial had shattered me. I found myself isolated, with no one to confide in about the maelstrom of emotions churning within me. My lover had walked away, his parting words a sting to my heart. He claimed I had become too needy, too desperate for connection. He had wanted a carefree dalliance, not to be ensnared in the tangled web of my life, wanting me to lean on him for the role of a father that he had no intentions of ever assuming. With him gone, I felt like a ship lost at sea, abandoned and adrift, surrounded by waves of sorrow with no land in sight. The sting of his rejection pierced deeply, and I grappled with the daunting task of mending my broken heart. In my desperation, I reached out to Chloe, hoping for a glimmer of solace. Yet her silence spoke volumes. Eventually, she texted me, explaining that David had advised her to keep her distance from me, cautioning her against getting involved in my chaos. Trust had become a fragile thread in her marriage, ever since the whispers of my indiscretions became public. She expressed her regret for not being there for me, but ultimately, her commitment to her own relationship had to take precedence. It hurt to hear, yet I recognized her need to prioritize her husband over me. Navigating this painful reality was a challenge for the both of us, but I could not fault her for striving to mend what was important to her. In this moment, I was enveloped in loneliness, guilt gnawing at my spirit, while dark clouds of depression loomed over my life. Each day was an internal battle fraught with doubts and uncertainties, as I faced the burden of my choices. The path forward seemed obscured by shadows, yet I understood that I must forge a way to heal and rise anew. I had to muster the strength to rebuild my relationship with Lily, to reconnect with her innocence and joy, even if it required a painstaking effort. Seeking guidance felt imperative. Perhaps reaching out to a therapist or surrounding myself with those willing to listen would be my salvation. By embracing small acts of self-care and stepping toward forgiveness, both of myself and others, I hoped to reclaim my fractured sense of self-worth and find meaningful connections once again. Thank you, dear friends, for being part of my journey thus far. I acknowledge my role in this tragedy and am painfully aware of the repercussions of my actions. I do not seek further disdain or reprimands. All I desire is to own my mistakes and strive to make amends. Your compassion and understanding are invaluable as I endeavor to grow from this harrowing experience. As I sat on the weathered porch of the rustic lakeside cabin, a faint drizzle began to fall, the tap of raindrops against the roof providing a melancholic soundtrack to my tumultuous thoughts. I glimpsed a delicate fishing boat drifting aimlessly across the lake, a metaphor for my own lost purpose. I longed for clarity amid the storm. Suddenly, a young couple walked past, laughter bubbling between them, their carefree chatter a jarring contrast to my somber reality. Curiosity piqued, I noticed the woman carrying a vibrant bouquet of wildflowers, a gift for her partner perhaps, or simply a gesture of affection. My heart ached at the sight. Could I harness the same spontaneity and life they displayed? Could I learn to weave joy and love back into my existence, one step at a time? As their laughter faded into the distance, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me, a reminder that beauty could still bloom amidst the darkest of days.